Steel rings in the darkness. Boots scrape stone. Someone is running, but no one knows from where. A breath catches. A whisper dies before it becomes a scream. Torches flicker, then vanish. Orders are shouted, then suddenly stop. Something has gone terribly wrong. A man turns his head just in time to hear it. The sound that doesn't belong. Not metal. Not footsteps. Something heavier. Closer. Hands tighten around weapons already slick with sweat. Eyes strain to see through smoke and shadow. No one moves. No one dares. A single command is given. Then silence swallows it whole. Somewhere nearby, a decision has already been made. A fate sealed without witnesses. Without mercy. This is not a battlefield. There are no banners. No war cries. No glory waiting to be claimed. Only fear. Only confusion. Only the knowledge that whatever happens next will change everything. A prince stands surrounded by enemies, and allies who suddenly feel very far away. He has defied kings before, challenged empires, bent history through sheer force of will. But tonight, power means nothing, because in the dark, loyalty is fragile, and death does not announce itself. No chronicles will record the final words spoken here. No witness will agree on what truly happened. And centuries later, one question still refuses to die. Who decided that Michael the Brave would not leave this place alive? The year is 1600. Eastern Europe stands on the edge of collapse. Empires loom over the region like storm clouds. The Ottoman Empire to the south, the Habsburg Empire to the west, and the Polish, Lithuanian Commonwealth pressing from the north. Between them lies a fragile frontier of principalities. Wallachia, Transylvania, Moldavia. These lands are not merely territories. They are corridors, routes for armies, trade, faith, and ambition. For decades, rulers here survive only by balance, by submission, by careful obedience to greater powers. Rebellion is not romantic. It is suicide. The Ottomans demand tribute and loyalty. The Habsburgs demand control and order. Poland demands influence and obedience. Each empire claims the right to decide who rules and who disappears. War is constant but rarely declared. Battles erupt without warning. Alliances shift overnight. Trust is temporary. Betrayal is currency. Castles are fortified not just against enemies, but against allies who may become enemies by morning. Spies travel faster than armies. Letters are intercepted. Promises are rewritten. In this world, power belongs to those who move first and destroy hesitation. The population lives under permanent tension. Fields are harvested under watchful eyes. Church bells ring not just for prayer, but for warning. Every ruler knows the same truth. To survive, you must kneel, or strike before the knee bends. Into this environment steps a man who refuses both options. A ruler who believes that unity is possible, that defiance can succeed, that history can be forced to change. But history does not forgive easily. Empires do not forget insults, and they never tolerate examples. As armies march and treaties crumble, rumors begin to spread. A prince is rising too fast, conquering too much, speaking too boldly. Some call him a liberator. Others call him reckless. Many call him dangerous, not because he is weak, but because he is strong enough to disrupt the balance. And in a world held together by fear, disruption is unforgivable. Michael is not born into certainty. He grows up in a world where survival requires vigilance, discipline, and restraint, where every gesture is observed, every word weighed. As a leader, he trains relentlessly, not just in combat but in endurance. His soldiers rise before dawn. Weapons are inspected in silence, armor cleaned until it reflects discipline itself. Disobedience is not tolerated. Fear is expected, but weakness is not. Punishments are swift. Order must be absolute. Yet Michael is not distant. He eats what his men eat, rides where they ride, stands in the rain with them. He learns their names, their fears, their families. This creates loyalty, but also risk, because loyalty tied to a man is more dangerous than loyalty tied to a crown. Michael's campaigns are bold, vast, unpredictable. He strikes where no one expects him, withdraws before retaliation can form. Victories accumulate, reputation spreads. So does concern. His men begin to sense it. The tightening pressure, the narrowing space. Orders arrive late. Messages contradict one another. Former allies hesitate before responding. Envoys avoid eye contact. Michael notices. He keeps it to himself. A commander cannot afford doubt. But at night, the atmosphere changes. Guards linger longer at their posts. Conversations end when footsteps approach. Maps are folded more carefully than before. No one says it aloud, but everyone feels it. They are being watched. Michael continues forward, because stopping now would be worse, because turning back would signal fear, and because leaders who hesitate do not survive in this world. The first signs are almost invisible. A courier arrives late, mud-stained boots dragging across the courtyard, his face pale, words halting and strange. He stutters, avoids eye contact, and offers only fragments of messages that seem familiar and yet wrong. Nothing seems outright threatening, but something feels off. Michael notices the tension in the young man's shoulders, the way he flinches at even the smallest noise. Then another courier fails to arrive entirely. The expected message never comes. A simple oversight, perhaps, but in this world, oversights can be deadly. Michael's trusted aides exchange uncertain glances. They say nothing aloud, but unease hangs over them like a dense fog. At night, the camp is quieter than usual. Fires are kept low, their flickering shadows barely reaching the tents. The men speak in hushed tones, careful to avoid drawing attention. Guards report no intruders, yet the usual vigilance seems strained, almost unnatural. The torches sputter as if the wind itself has grown hesitant, and the rustling of leaves sounds louder than it should. Every snap of a branch, every whisper of fabric against armor feels amplified. Messages come and go, but their wording is unusual. Allies respond with formal, stilted sentences, avoiding the casual familiarity of past correspondence. Orders arrive from commanders who rarely give direct commands, and when they do, the instructions are oddly vague. It is as though someone has inserted themselves into the chain of communication, reshaping it without leaving a trace. Unfamiliar faces begin to appear among the ranks. Soldiers who were never assigned to these units suddenly stand at guard posts. They wear the same armor, carry the same weapons, but their eyes are blank, disciplined in a way that seems mechanical. Questions asked of them are met with polite but evasive answers. Michael observes quietly, noting every detail. He knows that appearances can deceive, that loyalty is a fragile thing, and that even the smallest change in routine can hide a threat. In the distance, sentries report sounds they cannot identify. A faint murmur in the darkness, footsteps where none should be, shadows moving against the wind. One night a watchman swears he saw figures crossing the courtyard, yet when another checks, nothing remains. No footprints, no voices, no trace. He doubts his own eyes, but the unease lingers. Alliances begin to feel brittle. Allied commanders delay meetings, citing minor urgencies that never materialize. Conversations end abruptly when others approach, leaving questions suspended in the cold night air. Maps, once annotated with precision, are found folded differently than they were left, some notes erased or overwritten. Every small irregularity compounds the sense of unease, though no one dares voice suspicion openly. Even Michael's closest aides begin to hesitate. They are disciplined men, trained for obedience, but subtle fear creeps into their gestures. A hand lingers too long on a sword hilt, a glance lingers too long over a shoulder, a voice falters mid-sentence. Michael notices each detail, cataloging every irregularity. The patterns are not yet clear, but the tension is undeniable. The nights grow colder, the shadows longer. Silence itself becomes heavy. Even the wind seems to avoid the camp, leaving an oppressive stillness that presses on the men's minds. Every sound is suspect. Every absence is noticed. Whispers of danger swirl like smoke, but no one can see its source. And somewhere beyond the torchlight, beyond the familiar walls, decisions are being made. Actions are being taken. Plans are unfolding. But Michael cannot yet see them, and neither can anyone in his immediate circle. The unease grows in their stomachs like a slow poison. They sense it, but cannot name it. By the time dawn approaches, every subtle sign has multiplied into a network of warning lights, all flashing silently, all ignored at the risk of appearing paranoid. It is a night that stretches on, longer than it should, filled with uncertainty and foreboding. The calm before a storm that no one can predict. Michael presses on, as he always does. He keeps moving. He maintains discipline. But even he cannot shake the feeling that the rules have changed, that the world around him has shifted just enough to make every step forward uncertain and every glance over the shoulder potentially fatal. The stage is set, and yet no one knows what is coming. The night begins quietly, deceptively so. Michael the Brave walks among his closest escorts, each man alert, each hand resting lightly on a sword hilt. The torches lining the path flicker, casting tall, distorted shadows that twist across the stone walls. The wind is absent. Even the crickets seem muted. It feels wrong. The meeting was meant to be routine, a minor council with allied officers, maps spread across a wooden table, decisions recorded and repeated, nothing out of the ordinary. Yet the moment Michael steps into the courtyard, a subtle shift is almost imperceptible. A movement in the corner of the eye, a whisper of sound from behind the farthest tent. The hairs on the back of his neck rise, though no danger is visible. Then a faint echo, footsteps too soft for the heavy boots of his men. Something moves closer, slower, deliberate. Michael stops. Commands are whispered, low and precise, but the men hesitate. Nothing looks wrong. Nothing is visibly threatening. Yet tension grips them like a vice. A guard calls out a routine observation, his voice steady, but the answer comes from nowhere. Not the voice of a fellow soldier, but something else, too measured, almost rehearsed. Michael frowns. He signals for silence. All around him, the camp holds its breath. And then it begins. A shadow moves against the torchlight. Not fast, not sudden, but with a precision that suggests planning. Michael reacts instinctively, stepping toward it, eyes narrowing, but the figure disappears into the darkness. Confusion spreads. A second movement, then a third. The escorts form a tighter circle around him, their eyes scanning, their hands ready, but no enemy line appears. Shouts break the silence. Conflicting orders ring out. Advance, hold position, fall back. The voices overlap, drowned in the panic that has grown too quickly to control. Soldiers move in every direction, some running toward imagined threats, others freezing in place. Michael tries to call them back, but his voice is swallowed by the chaos. The torches flicker violently as gusts of wind, or something unseen, ripple through the courtyard. Shadows leap across the walls. Movements are repeated in flashes, boots running, hands grabbing weapons, swords lifted and lowered. but no pattern emerges. Nothing is recognizable. It is as if the world itself has fractured for a moment. Michael feels it then, a subtle, horrifying absence. The men he expected to be closest, those he trusted implicitly, are no longer where they should be. One soldier who had always marched at his side simply vanishes from sight. Another appears in the periphery, frozen, as though caught between two realities. Their eyes meet his for a brief instant, blank, distant, before turning away. Sound becomes disorienting. A bell tolls, though there is no bell. A shout echoes, repeated, layered, indistinguishable from the wind. Torches gutter and flare, casting the courtyard into darkness for brief, terrifying moments. Each flicker reveals glimpses of movement, but nothing stays long enough to register fully. The world feels unsteady, as if gravity itself has shifted. Michael turns, seeking an explanation. There is none. The allies supposed to meet him have disappeared or refused to answer. The familiar shapes of his men are replaced by silhouettes that move independently, as if acting under a different rhythm. His own steps echo unnaturally against the stone, faster than expected, carrying a weight he cannot account for. He calls out, "Form up!" His voice cracks, sharper than intended. The men respond partially. Some follow, others hesitate. Confusion has taken hold. Commands are ignored or misunderstood. Every instinct honed over decades of battle tells him to act decisively, yet every action seems to cascade into further disorder. Then abruptly everything pauses. The chaos freezes as if held in place by an unseen hand. Michael looks around, heart pounding. The courtyard is still. The torches burn steadily once more. The wind is calm, the echoes vanish. And the men, gone. Not dead, at least nothing indicates violence. Not captured, not where they should be, just vanished. The sounds, the shouts, the moving shadows, all replaced by an eerie silence that presses down like stone. Michael stands alone, surrounded by empty space where every living soul was just moments ago. He moves forward cautiously, calling names. Silence answers. No footsteps. No responses. Only the flickering torchlight dancing over the empty courtyard and the oppressive weight of uncertainty. His senses scream danger, yet nothing presents itself. He searches systematically, moving from wall to wall, corner to corner. Every tent is checked, every pathway retraced. There is no trace, no footprints, no disturbance, no sign that anyone has been here at all. The maps lie where they were left. The council table remains undisturbed. And yet, the absence cannot be ignored. Time stretches. Minutes feel like hours. Michael's heart pounds against the unnatural quiet. He speaks again, voice low and urgent, but no one responds. The torches flare suddenly, casting long shadows that move across the walls. For a fleeting moment, it seems as if shapes are returning, figures just beyond reach. But when he blinks, they vanish again. By the first pale light of dawn, the courtyard is empty. Michael remains, alone. The men, the council, the escorts, vanished without explanation. The incident has ended, but the questions linger. How could an entire group disappear so completely? No records, no witnesses, nothing to indicate cause or method. Only the unsettling realization that the world has shifted. And in that silence, one fact is undeniable. Michael the Brave has survived, but the certainty he relied upon for decades has been stripped away. For the first time, he realizes that power and discipline may not protect him from the unknown forces surrounding him. And somewhere beyond the torchlight, decisions are still being made. But by whom and for what purpose? No one can answer. Dawn comes, but it brings no answers. The courtyard is empty. The torches have burned down to stubs. Michael the Brave stands alone, the silence pressing in from every side. His mind races. Where could they have gone? How could an entire escort vanish without a trace? Orders are issued immediately. Search parties form with grim efficiency, men scouring every corner of the surrounding forests, valleys, and hills. Soldiers move in tight formations, voices calling names into the cold morning air. Horses gallop across the fields, hooves pounding the frozen ground. Every approach is systematic, but each step only amplifies the uncertainty. Commanders meet in hurried councils, papers shuffled, reports compared. Every description conflicts with another. One messenger claims to have seen a shadow pass the eastern gate. Another insists no one approached from that direction. The statements do not align, and each contradiction deepens the mystery. Michael watches, noting the growing frustration and confusion. The men are disciplined, trained for chaos, yet this defies explanation. Investigations extend beyond the immediate camp. Spies are questioned, informants summoned. Words are repeated, rephrased, examined for hidden meaning, but answers are scarce. Some witnesses remember details differently, others cannot remember anything at all. It is as if a portion of the world has blinked and left no record. Official reports are compiled, pages of careful observations, lists of the missing, annotations on terrain and timing. Yet every report contains gaps. Times contradict one another. Locations are inconsistent. Names vanish. Margins are erased. Some documents disappear entirely. Others are rewritten later subtly, almost imperceptibly, as if someone has been silently correcting history. Even the closest allies appear reluctant to speak. Their eyes flicker with hesitation when questioned. A glance, a pause, a carefully measured silence conveys far more than their words. Michael notices the subtleties. A hand brushing against a sword hilt longer than necessary. A voice faltering when asked about the night's events. Trust, once firm and unshakable, now trembles on a knife's edge. The search expands further. Forests are combed, rivers are patrolled, villages near and far are visited, occupants questioned, but nothing emerges. Not a footprint, not a trace, not a whisper of what might have happened. It is as if the men were swallowed by the earth itself. Rumors begin to circulate. Some claim an enemy attack, a secretive strike that left no survivors. Others whisper of betrayal from within, a conspiracy executed with impossible precision. Another theory suggests a political maneuver so delicate that it erased itself from memory. Every rumor carries the same problem: no proof, no witness, only speculation and fear. Michael remains vigilant. He reviews every report, cross-references each testimony, inspects the terrain himself. Each piece of evidence, or lack thereof, adds to the growing frustration. There is no pattern, no signature, no explanation. Only contradictions, only questions. Even higher authorities grow uneasy. Word reaches distant courts and inquiries are launched. Agents arrive, their presence careful and measured. Their reports are curt, their questions precise, yet their files contain the same gaps. Some pages are blacked out. Some names are redacted. Others are missing entirely. Michael begins to sense a strange restraint, a deliberate censorship, as if those in power do not wish the truth to surface. At night the camp is again quiet, but no longer calm. Soldiers move through the shadows with heightened caution. Lanterns flicker, casting long, uncertain shapes across tents. Conversations are guarded. Each sound is analyzed, every glance read for hidden meaning. Michael can feel the tension in the air, an intangible weight, heavier than any enemy attack he has faced. Days pass. The searches continue, but slowly, almost imperceptibly, they lose urgency. Reports are filed, then shelved. Witnesses are quietly reassigned or dismissed. The absence of the missing becomes part of routine, a mystery tolerated but not solved. And throughout it all, the central question remains unspoken yet ever present. Where did his men go? Who, if anyone, orchestrated their disappearance? And why has no one come forward with answers? Michael the Brave knows only one thing. In this world, silence can be more dangerous than steel. And when those in power choose secrecy over clarity, the truth does not vanish, it waits, waiting for someone brave or foolish enough to uncover it. But tonight, in the flickering torchlight and cold corridors, Michael has no answers, only questions. questions that may never be answered. The incident defies logic. By now, historians, soldiers, and chroniclers alike have speculated endlessly, but certainty remains impossible. Michael the Brave vanished along with his closest men. No evidence, no record, no eyewitness accounts that can be trusted. Yet theories persist, each one plausible, each one incomplete. Some claim the prince was eliminated by a foreign hand, a covert operation orchestrated by one of the empires he had defied, a strike so precise, so meticulous, that it left no trace. According to certain reports, unknown figures were seen in the vicinity days before the incident. Strange tents, unfamiliar symbols, coded messages passed in the night. Some notes mention swift justice and final lesson. But contradictions abound. Other witnesses insist no one approached the camp. Scouts patrolled the area and found no unusual activity. If it were an external strike, why would it leave the prince alive, or at least partially unharmed? Why erase the entire escort without leaving a mark? Documents in a sealed archive hint at foreign interest, yet the pages are redacted, names erased, locations blacked out. Even the most diligent historians cannot reconcile the conflicting accounts. The assassin theory fascinates, but never convinces entirely. Another explanation suggests internal treachery. Someone close to Michael, the very men he trusted, might have orchestrated the disappearance. Perhaps a rival commander, an aide secretly aligned with an empire, or a faction dissatisfied with the prince's rapid rise. Reports of strange behavior in the days before the incident support this theory. Missed messages, unexplained absences, unusual hesitations, and cold glances all point to internal unrest. Yet the evidence is circumstantial. Those implicated either disappeared themselves, changed assignments, or refused to speak. Nothing concrete ties anyone directly to the event. The betrayal theory tantalizes the imagination but collapses under scrutiny. The meticulous discipline of Michael's forces makes such coordination nearly impossible without detection. Some historians argue the disappearance was a political maneuver, an erasure designed to restore balance among the empires. Michael had become too powerful, too unpredictable. His unification of the principalities threatened delicate alliances. Erasing him quietly, without bloodshed, would prevent upheaval. Reports of secret councils and late-night decisions in distant courts lend credibility to this. Classified files, now partially destroyed or hidden, refer vaguely to containment and neutralization without spectacle. But questions remain. If this were true, why allow rumors and legends to grow around the disappearance? Why leave a vacuum that inspires rebellion and myth rather than quiet resolution? The political theory explains motive but leaves too many gaps in execution. A less conventional theory suggests something beyond human orchestration. Accounts of shadows moving in impossible ways, sounds heard with no source, and men vanishing without trace hint at forces no one can explain. Some chronicles speak of omens, of nights so still that reality itself seems to twist. Others describe glimpses of figures moving faster than men could run or disappearing into thin air. While this theory lacks empirical evidence, it persists in whispers, passed down through generations. Each theory carries weight, but none carries proof. What is undeniable is the presence of secrecy. Files are missing, witnesses are silent, archives are altered. Someone ensures that the full truth is never recorded. Michael the Brave's disappearance becomes a mirror, reflecting the fears of those who attempt to explain it. Every theory invites doubt. Every explanation contradicts itself in some way. The narrative splinters, leaving only fragments, rumors, and shadows. And the most haunting truth of all, the world moves on as if nothing happened, while the questions remain. Who orchestrated the disappearance? Was it foreign enemies, a traitor within, a political necessity, or something beyond comprehension? No one can say. Some files suggest there were additional investigations, hidden from public record. Others imply that certain witnesses were reassigned or lost. Every new piece of evidence raises more questions than it answers. And so the mystery endures. Michael the Brave vanished without explanation, and every theory, no matter how compelling, falls just short of certainty. Michael the Brave did what few men dared. He defied kings, challenged empires, and for a fleeting moment, reshaped the balance of power in Eastern Europe. Yet even the strongest cannot escape the shadows forever. The world he sought to command did not forget him, it erased him. The truth of his disappearance was never recorded, not fully, not accurately. Some reports vanished, witnesses disappeared, records were altered, sealed, or destroyed. Even time itself seems to have folded over that night, leaving only whispers and speculation. We are left with fragments, flickering torches, empty courtyards, questions that stretch across centuries. Historians, scholars, and storytellers have tried to fill the gaps. Each theory, the assassin, the betrayal, the political necessity, the unexplained forces, offers a glimpse. None provides certainty. None closes the story. And that is the most disturbing truth of all. Power, courage, brilliance, they were not enough to protect him. Discipline and loyalty could not save him. Even his closest allies could not anchor him to the world he had fought so hard to shape. All that remains is the shadow of his presence, the legacy of a prince whose rise and fall continue to haunt history, and the question that refuses to die. What truly happens to those who refuse to kneel in a world built on fear? We may never know. But perhaps you, the observer, the thinker, the historian of the unknown, can imagine it. Share your theory, question the past, and remember, some stories do not end. They only wait silently for someone brave enough to ask the right question. Michael the Brave vanished. The world moved on, and history keeps its secrets.